Hi everyone. So as you can see here, I have my character, and I'm trying to play a facial animation generated with MetaHuman Performance from audio, with head rotation enabled. And when I play the animation montage, it's not great. The head gets detached from the body, it clips through the clothes, and overall it just looks really bad. So the idea today is to share a technique that one of the members of my Discord server showed me. He's a professional developer running his own independent studio. LT, if you're watching this, thanks again for sharing this with us. This is going to help a lot of people. Alright, let's get started. The core idea behind this technique is to retrieve the head rotation curve values from the facial animation montage, from the head anim instance, and then forward those values to the body anim instance so the same rotations are applied to the body as well. To allow our two anim instances to communicate, we're going to create an interface with two functions inside. The first function is called setBodyMesh. We're going to implement it on the Face Anim blueprint. This will allow us to pass a reference to the body, that is a skeletal mesh component, to the Face AnimBP, so it can retrieve a reference to the Body AnimBP from that skeletal mesh component. This way, the Face AnimBP will be able to send its rotation values to the Body AnimBP by calling the second function we're going to create, which will be implemented on the Body AnimBP, updateBodyMesh. This function takes 3 rotators as parameters, one for the head, one for neck 2, and one for neck 1. Now we're going to implement the interface we just created on the Face Anim blueprint. Locate your Face AnimBP and open it. If you don't have one yet, simply create it. Mine is very basic. It only contains a default slot node. Open your head AnimBP and go to the Class Settings tab. From there, add our interface to the Implemented Interfaces section. Next, double-click on setBodyMesh to implement the function. Promote the BodyMesh input to a variable. Check that the BodyMesh is valid, then retrieve its anim instance using getAnimInstance, and promote that reference to a variable called Body AnimInstanceBP. Now go to the anim graph and select the default slot node. Here we're going to add a callback on the onUpdate event. Name it onUpdateDefaultSlot and implement it like this. We'll retrieve the animation curve values using getCurveValue. We'll do this for the head roll, head pitch, and head yaw curves. Then create a first rotator variable called headCurveRotator. Next, we multiply this rotator by a percentage stored in a variable called headMotionScaler. This allows you to amplify or reduce the head rotation depending on your needs. You could even imagine driving this value using a curve inside your animation montage if needed. We won't do that in this tutorial, but it's a good example of a possible use case. Update headCurveRotator with the result of this multiplication. Then we attenuate this rotation so it can be smoothly propagated to neck 2 and neck 1. Now go back to the event graph and implement the blueprint update animation event. First, call getSlotLocalWait on the default slot to check whether an animation montage is currently playing. If it is, we forward the rotation values to the Body AnimBP using the updateBodyMesh function from our interface. At this point, I actually make a small mistake that I correct later. I initially call the function on the body mesh instead of the Body AnimBP. We pass the rotation values stored in our variables as parameters to updateBodyMesh. So make sure to remove the body mesh reference and replace it with Body AnimInstanceBP. Now we're going to take care of the Body Anim blueprint. Locate your Body AnimBP. In my case, I'm using the one from the third-person template that I retarget for MetaHumans, and open it. Go to the Class Settings tab and add our interface to the Implemented Interfaces list. Then double-click on Update Body Mesh to implement the function, and promote the 3 input parameters to variables. Next, go to the anim graph. Here we're going to work between the default slot and the control rig, in order to adjust the rotations of the head, neck 1, and neck 2 bones. To do this, we'll add a Local to Component section, where we can insert transform bone nodes. Disable the exposed pins that we don't need, translation, scale, and alpha. For rotation mode, choose Add to Existing, and for rotation space, choose Bone Space. For bone to modify, select neck 1, and bind the corresponding rotator variable. Then duplicate this node for the other bones. Adjust the values as I do here, first for neck 2 and then for the head. Finally, make sure everything is properly connected. And that's it, we're done with the Body AnimBP. Now go back to your character blueprint. In the Begin Play event, we're going to set things up so the body mesh reference is passed to the Face Anim instance. Just make sure to check that the Anim instance is valid before doing this. Now let's see what happens when we test everything.
Okay.
As you can see, unfortunately, the issue is still there. But don't worry, we didn't do all of this for nothing. This problem is actually caused by the Face Post Process Anim blueprint. Inside it, there is a control rig that is driven by an animation curve called HeadControlSwitch. And that curve is the real culprit here. Let's take a look at the value of this curve in animations generated by MetaHuman Performance or Live Link. If we inspect them closely, we can see that this curve is set to 1 in those animations. Unfortunately, the control rig doesn't seem to behave correctly in this case, so we need to force this curve to 0. Let's test this with the first dialogue line of my character. I open the animation, change the curve value to 0, and test again.
Okay, first dialogue
and just like
Quest
that,
Master test.
problem solved.
No pressure, it's
The
just
issue
me.
is that doing this manually for every animation is pretty tedious. So instead, we're going to automate the process. Go back to the Face Anim blueprint. We're going to slightly refactor things so we can override the value of this curve. First, store the output of the default slot into a cached pose. Then, retrieve that cached pose and modify the curve value using a Modify Curve node. Enable Expose as pin, promote the map to a variable, and set the default value with HeadControlSwitch mapped to 0. This way, when the post-process AnimBP runs, the curve will always be forced to 0, and the faulty control rig will be ignored. I also add a Blend Poses by Bool node, in case you want to enable or disable this workaround. You can easily control it by toggling the Boolean value. Now, if we test again, we can see that everything works perfectly.
Okay, first dialogue in Quest Master test. No pressure, it's just me.
For those of you
talking
following
to
my tutorial
myself
series on dialogue in Quest
dialogue
Master,
system.
there's one
Inside the
final small
tutorial.
step left to do
If
on the
this shows up
NPC.
in game,
For everyone
great.
else, you can
That
stop the
means
video
everything's
here.
working.
Thanks for watching,
if
and
it
I hope this
doesn't,
helped.
Well, then I guess I'm just monologuing into the void again.
Alright, dialogue and Quest Master users, let's take care of that last remaining step. Open your base NPC class, and go to the function Setup Anim Instances and Tags. We're going to modify it so we can store references to the head and body, allowing us to call setBodyMesh from the parent class, which doesn't directly own those components. To do this, promote the head and body parameters to variables called headRef and BodyRef. If you run into the same issue I did, make sure to properly update headRef and BodyRef. Next, go to the event graph, and implement the Begin Play event to call setBodyMesh on the Face AnimBP. Then, in the child classes, meaning each MetaHuman NPC, make sure that the parent Begin Play function is called. Otherwise, the setup logic from the base class won't run. Let's test everything.
Okay, first dialogue in Quest Master test. No pressure, it's just me talking to myself.
And as
in
you
a
can see,
dialogue system
everything works
inside
perfectly.
a tutorial. If this shows up in game, great.
And that's it for this
That
video.
means everything's
Thanks a lot
working.
for watching.
And if it doesn't,
I really hope this helped you
well,
fix
then
this
I guess I'm
MetaHuman
just
issue in your own
monologuing into
projects.
the void again.
In the next video, we'll
Conditions,
take things a
actions?
step further
Yeah,
and look
we'll
at how
deal
to
with all
use
that
Live
later.
Link to
Baby
record
steps.
facial
Let's
mocap
just
and
get
plug
this
it directly
first
into
line to repair
Dialogue in
without
Quest
exploding
Master.
anything.
See you in the
Test
next
NPC
one.
line.